All right. See, we have a lot of people joining us now, so I think we'll get started. Just want to start by saying hello and welcome to everyone, and welcome back to UCD What It Takes Employability Series. My name is Camille Rogers, and I'm the Alumni Relations and Marketing Officer for the UCD College of Arts and Humanities. This is the first episode of our spring series, focusing on what it takes to map a career change. We'll be hearing from two stellar UCD alumni this evening who are experts on finding your way to a rewarding career. First, we'll hear from Stephanie Fitzpatrick, Director and Career Consultant at CareerFits, and then we'll have a presentation from Radwa Khorshid, Manager of EMEA Customer Success at Hubspot. Afterwards, we'll have 15 minutes for audience questions, led by my colleague, Michelle Cohen. She's a careers consultant with UCD Careers Network. So be sure to drop any questions you may have into the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen, and our speakers will answer as many of them as they can by the end of the session. And finally, this session is being recorded. So if you want to revisit it or have any trouble with connectivity tonight, you can find it on the UCD Alumni YouTube channel starting tomorrow. So without any further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Stephanie.
Thank you very much, Camille. Thank you for the invitation to speak tonight. And we're going to cover a few areas of career change, primarily how to decide on a career change. So I'll just share with you a few slides here that I've put together. So primarily the first question that I think we need to ask ourselves when we're looking at change is to ask the question, why do I want to change? So, I mean, it could be that maybe your environment, you're not enjoying your environment, but maybe you're still enjoying your job. It could be that that you want to do something more personally rewarding. It could be that you're not happy within your present role, but you could actually change your role, but still stay in the same career area. So I think it's really crucial to decide this question. Why do I want to change? And I advise people to think about a list of pros and cons. These are the pros of my present job, these are the cons. I think what you'll eventually end up doing is there are three potential directions. One is that you get a new job. If you are going to change, you get a new job in the same field. You get a new career in a different industry, but pulling very, very clearly from the skills and experiences that you've already built up, or else you just pivot totally. You absolutely just pivot in a totally different direction. So, and I think one thing as well, when you're looking at this question of why do I want to change, look and see if within your interests and your hobbies and your other life outside career, if you're unhappy, maybe you can find some solutions there without having to actually change. And also to look and see, listen, if I'm unhappy, is it more than my job? Is there something here that I really need to look at that's even more fundamental than my work? Very important. Okay, so next what I'd like to, the next one I'd like to look at is, so if you do decide to change, what I'd say to you is, yes, it is possible to change and you are not alone. There's been a lot of people do change, and they change mid-career. They change many times often. In the US, for instance, there's an organization called encore.org, and encore as in an encore career, second career, third career. It's very embedded in the community over there. It's embedded in the universities, in the workplace, in the voluntary sector. I myself did some research, as it happens, a few years ago for a university here that was looking at doing a year-long course on transitions, on career transition. And in the course of that, I interviewed a substantial number of people in Ireland who had changed really quite, very different ways. They changed potentially maybe from being a lawyer to looking at the whole medical area. So it is possible, and there's a TED talk that inspired me recently by a woman called Emil Wapnick. And she'd been a musician, songwriter, she'd been a web designer, she'd been a law student, she's an entrepreneur. And she called people who change and are interested in change, she called them multi-potentialities. I thought it was a lovely word, multi-potentialities. So those who have multiple potentials. So, you know, changing, if you're going to change, don't regard it as being set in stone either. You know, this could be just another stage on your journey. So, so it's very positive, and lots of people have done it before you. I thought it would be interesting to give you an idea of what my path has been. So I have, and luck and circumstance often come into people's career paths. I've had what I would call pretty winding road, really. You know, I started out life as a teacher. I couldn't get a job for anything. It was recession times. So I applied for a job in the UCD, in the Audiovisual Centre here in UCD. It was kind of part-time job for a year, but that actually gave me some audiovisual skills. And I remember sitting around at coffee one time with my colleagues in there, and we saw this ad in RTE. They were looking for camera people, and we jokingly said, "Oh, they're looking for camera people, sound people, lighting people." And we said, "I think we should apply for that. Let's just apply for the crack." So we applied. I ended up in there for 4 years as a camera person. I was in there until I got a real job teaching. So so I was there for 4 years, and then a job came up as a producer. Now I had the skills that I gained through being a camera person, but I also had the graduate experience, which helped a lot. I spent 15 very happy years there, productive years, I like to think, as a TV producer. And I was getting restless, and then I saw another ad internally for setting up a staff development center, and I thought, yeah, that sounds really interesting. I think I'll apply for that. And as it happened, I had the knowledge now of the industry, which was great. And then again, I had the graduate experience, and that enabled me to set up the center actually for 3 years. And when I was there, what I found really interesting was we were enabling people to change. So it was people, we had voluntary redundancies in RT at the time. So people had to change out of their role sometimes, and their job was gone. So we had crafts people going into the library and working in the library. You know, we had them changing into all sorts of different roles, technical people changing into office work again. So it really brought it home to me how much people can, and very often they thoroughly enjoyed the change. They absolutely loved it. I then went on to become a head of HR in TV for 7 years. Again, it aligned all my skills, a lot of my skills. I had no training in HR, but because I knew the industry and had some people experience, that helped me. Then went on to become what I regard as the most wonderful job I had, which was an assistant commissioning editor. So I was commissioning programs. And again, I enjoyed that. It was very different, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. So that's me. It gives you some idea. And then I decided I'd become a career counsellor because I was so interested and fascinated by the whole area of change. So next I would say, how do you start out on this? I think one of the most important things is that the most important thing first off is that you have your mindset. You sort of, a lot of this is around psychology, changes around psychology. So I think first of all, most important is that you get to know yourself, that you start thinking about what you really like. It's very hard to make very good decisions unless you know yourself quite well, and to address the fears that you have as regards changes, you know. So address those fears. Are you worried about finance? Are you worried about, you know, what people will think? Are you worried about expectations? Just address those fears if you can, and take time. This is not something that you'll start on a Monday and say, I'll have the solution by Friday. No, I mean, it does take time to cogitate, to think, and to sit with this. Use your network. I'll be talking about networking a lot throughout the next few minutes, but networking is so crucial. And start talking to your friends, start talking to your colleagues, just bounce ideas around. And in terms of limits, don't allow yourself to limit yourself in any way, really. You know, don't say I have to go into something that's aligned to what I'm presently doing, or to in some way has some sort of connection. No, don't limit yourself, and be very open to what is out there, because there's a lot out there. So the first step, I would say, is that you should do what we call a vision board. And the primary focus of the vision board is the primary question that it asks is, what do I want? What do I want? It's the most fundamental question. So most people a lot of people who head into a career change actually have no clue what they want. So in order to start the process of getting there, what I advise people to do is to start a vision board. Now, a vision board really is that you will start to ask fundamental questions like, what will I be doing in 10 years' time? You sit back, you take the time, and you listen essentially to your inner voice, because the answer is in there, I firmly believe, if you listen carefully, because we're so distracted these days by lots of things, and there's so many kind of options that we don't actually really listen to what's inside, I think. So do that. You'll find a lot of material on the net telling you how to set up a vision board, but it's something that you set up that is a work in progress. And so how do I envisage myself living? What sort of job am I doing? It's a whole life decision when you're talking about a career change. So while that vision board is cooking, as it were, and in parallel with that, what I would advise you to do is to look at 4 fundamental questions about yourself. So if you start to look at what your abilities are, what are my abilities? Your abilities are your kind of previous knowledge, your skills, the things you've picked up. What's my personality? What sort of personality traits do I have? Because your personality, certain different types of personalities lend themselves to different types of careers. What are my interests? Not just in career area, but also what are my interests outside? And what are my values? Now, this is really fundamental, I think. I think fundamental to our career should be, what's our value system? So do we feel that justice is exceedingly important? Do we value independence? Do we value getting a very good salary? Is the whole issue of the environment very, very important to us? So there are ways that I will come to a little bit later on where we can self-assess some of these. You can get them assessed professionally as well through various tests. But I think these 4 pillars, as it were, are exceedingly important. And while you're on this journey, both in your vision boarding and in establishing those 4 kind of fundamentals, I'd advise you to consider all the options. This is not a direct path by any means, and be good to yourself and give yourself time and be flexible and be open. So hopefully, having gone through this process, it could take weeks, it could take months, it could take a year, you will have some sort of idea of what you want. So now is the time to set down your action plan, because really until you take the first step, you're not really going anywhere. And in order to take the first step, you need an action plan, and an action plan is very, very practical. So you have some idea now of what you want. Okay, I want to head into IT. I've been doing something totally different now, but I want to head into IT, or I want to head into either IT, or I want to head into or the health area. Not quite sure. Okay, but at least you've got the start of a plan. And how am I going to do this? So you've got some sort of idea then about how you reach these goals, what sort of strategy you're going to use. So you're writing this down, and when. Most important is that you put some sort of timeline around it. The action plan is not something that's static. You'll be adding to this all the time, but at least it lets you take that first step. So next, what I would say is So what you're going to be doing in the action plan, the type of elements of the action plan, as it were, would be research. You'll be researching the job market, for instance. You'll be networking with lots of people. You'll be trying to find people who are in those areas. Say, for the example of the IT and the health areas, you'll be identifying them, networking with them, trying to see what sort of the roles they do, and you'll be setting up what we call informational interviews. So information interviews are essentially meeting people, are in these days doing a Zoom platform or whatever platform you use, and asking them, it's like a cup of coffee, having a cup of coffee with them, just chatting, getting to know them. It's not with the view to being interviewed by them, but just getting information essentially. So you're compiling all these resources and all this information, and then you'll be in tandem with that, you'll be trawling all the resources that are open to you. There are lots and lots of resources. On the left-hand side, I've got just a small portion of the type of resources that when I work with clients, I point them towards. So you've got, for instance, the Careers Portal. It's an Irish website. It is packed with information. And also you can get lots of free tests like ability tests, interest inventories, etc., there on Careers Portal. And they're good. They'll start you off at least. The Qualifax, for those who are not familiar with it from college or from school even, Qualifax holds all the courses that are available in Ireland at lots of levels. So some people, for instance, who are already grads might be looking to do conversion courses. And really, if you've got a good undergrad, usually a 2-1 you need, not always, but usually, if you've got a 2-1, you can convert your area of study to almost anything, really. You know, to business, you can convert it to, you know, broadcasting, even if your undergrad was nothing to do with any of those subjects. Grad Ireland is a fund of information as well. And the Springboard courses, for instance, there's lots of courses out there. I was looking earlier on today, and there are 11,000 places available on the Springboard, and a lot of them don't cost anything. There's 332 courses. The government run them to fill in the gaps that we have in Ireland, for instance, in IT, but in hospitality, in lots of other areas. And the other resources would be on the right there. We have podcasts. There's loads of podcasts, both national and international. Just put in career change and you'll come up with a myriad of them. There's online courses on change, on career change. And if you think you know the area, you can do some free courses like Future Learning, for instance, is very good to start you off in various subjects. TED Talks, very informational and very inspirational as well. So I would say in terms of the practicalities, then moving on, once you have decided where you want to go, it's up to you. You've decided to change. You decide your story. You control your own narrative. You say, this is where I started. This is where I got to. This is where I decided to change. And here I am now. I have the skills. I have to kind of top up a little bit in terms of study or experience, but here I am. And you start going around presenting yourself to people. And you, of course, get your CV together. You get your, begin to work on cover letters. And when you're on your CV, I would really advise you, particularly in the statement at the top, that's when you tell your story. You know, you focus on your passion, you promote your strengths, you emphasize all those transferable skills, all the ways in which your previous experience relates to your the area you want to go into that mightn't be so obvious to a potential employer. So then also don't forget your online profile, really crucial. LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, all those blogs, you're telling your story. The way you present yourself on all those platforms is crucial, because the first thing that an employer will do is look there. And of course, what do? You network, you network, you network all the way. Because one of the reasons I say this is that a huge number of jobs are actually not posted online. They say internationally anyway, that about 80% are not posted online. And internationally, Forbes would say that 85% of jobs are filled through networking, essentially. So it's really crucial that you use, and when I say network, I mean all your friends, your family, your bosses, your ex-bosses, your colleagues, your ex-colleagues, the person in the supermarket, anywhere you can, you network and you find out more about the area that you want to go into. And my final thing to you would be that advice to you would be to enjoy it. Enjoy the adventure. It's great fun. So thank you very much. And I'll hand over now to Radwa.
Great. I'm going to start by sharing my screen. Okay. Stephanie, could you please stop sharing so that I can share myself?
Sure, absolutely. There we are.
Brilliant stuff. Thanks, Emil.
Thanks.
Can everyone see my screen okay?
That looks perfect, Radwa, thanks.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Stephanie, for your great presentation. Some very interesting stuff there. Good evening, everyone. Before we start, I have a quick disclaimer to make. I'm not going to be able to promise you guys a magical recipe to change your career tomorrow, but I will, for sure, try my best to help you get started by sharing with you the right practical questions you need to be asking yourself, and sharing also with you some super concrete tips towards entering your dream career based on my experience as a leader in tech, but also in various industries really, and the hiring manager for many years. And my second, more part of the kind of boring part of the disclaimer is opinions that I'm going to be sharing with you guys today do represent none of my current or previous employers. They are my own opinions. My name is Radwa, and I am super excited to be chatting to you all today. So I'm going to start by letting you in on a little secret that will also explain to all of you why I'm really, really passionate about this topic. I was actually born and raised in Cairo, Egypt, relocated to Ireland 10 years ago. And that wasn't the easiest change at all that I've had to go through. I've had to learn loads about adapting, especially when it comes to navigating career opportunities. Because guess what? A change to my career proved to be the only option available for me to enter the workforce here in Ireland, right? And really stand a chance for that. Right. So before we start, I also want to talk about something here. To start today's session, my goal really would be sharing with all of you some practical and concrete tips, like I said, about the career change journey, based on what I've had in my own journey, long one. Trust me, even before moving to Ireland, I've had many changes of career before, but also how I've seen others effectively doing that as a leader and hiring manager myself. Today, we're going to be covering a few things. I want to talk to you about career change, why and how. Returning to work with a bang, if you have had a career break and are returning back to work, how can you do that effectively and successfully? And also sharing with you some practical tips towards your dream career. So let's start by getting us all to think about a couple of fundamental questions. 2020 was arguably one of the most challenging years this generation will see, but it also came with many interesting silver linings that I believe actually remain quite underrated. So think about the fact that we all developed a huge deal of adaptability, agility, and grit, right? All of you guys who had to change careers, who had, lost a job, unfortunately, and how you guys navigated that is definitely building up your skills and flexing your muscles when it comes to adaptability and so on and so forth. Many of us as well explored, opportunities that would have never happened without COVID. You guys got to work on different projects that, reflecting how your company or how, if you are a small business owner yourself, how you had to pivot to face COVID and to thrive as a business, right? And these are all opportunities that we would have never gotten without a pandemic. But most importantly, and I truly believe this has been an amazing opportunity there, we all got to build a solid portfolio of interview scenario and examples that we will be using for many years to come. When you guys are asked in a job interview about overcoming challenges or adaptability in any interview, you will have a huge set of examples and scenarios that you'll be very proud to share. Let's address also the elephant in the room here. So generally speaking, there are two main reasons why one would consider a career change. Either you are really desperate for a job, common now, I'm afraid, and unfortunately because of COVID, or you want to pursue a passion of yours. You want to go after your dream career, right? And both reasons, in fact, are very good and valid reasons. but surely require you to think differently about positioning your reasoning in a job interview from selling your profile viewpoint, right? Another important question that you need to candidly ask yourself here, which is my second question on the slides. Is now the right time for this change? If your dream career is actually career in hospitality industry, you want to work for Airbnb, it's a great company, but is now the right time? Is that industry thriving in a pandemic this year specifically? Or maybe you need to put that dream career change on hold and check out other options that might be available, relevant, and will give you the same fulfillment you would get from Airbnb, right? Again, as an example. Do your due diligence as well and check out the industry, map out the industry, look at the opportunities open there in the industry and see if now and this industry is the right time or not, right? It's very, very important because often people try too hard and have, I want to work for Google, I want to work for, I don't know, Pfizer, I want to work for a specific company and are just a bit short-sighted in not thinking, what can I do now to get me to Google if Google is really my dream company, and so on and so forth. And that could be completely different, could be a startup, right? And again, the last question here I have is around diversity, inclusion, commitment of that industry. And why I'm mentioning that? Because industries with that commitment are definitely more likely to value your rich talent and see you as an asset, and see actually your diverse professional background, unconventional background as an asset to them, as opposed to as, why would I take someone who didn't do the job before, right? So definitely another interesting one as you are doing the due diligence, looking out at the open opportunities and the industries that might be, the right ones for you to look out for. Now, before we start with the practical tips, I want to stage the scene here, guys, and acknowledge that the journey won't be easy. It will require loads of bravery, courage, resilience, and focus. Your passion will be your best compass on this journey and will guide you to the right opportunity that is out there for you. When I was a little girl, my passion actually has always been to help people and advocate for doing the right thing. Originally, I thought defending innocent people was the way to go, so I became the first lawyer in my family. And very soon, I realized that actually being a lawyer in Egypt wouldn't get me to achieve what I want to achieve because of the corrupt, landscape in Egypt when it comes to court system and so on and so forth. So I pivoted to journalism, right, to help give voice to voiceless. And I was a shining star in journalism. I did so many great stuff and managed to get to huge media outlets, and everyone was so proud of me. But fast forward, and with that journalism passion that I developed quickly, I moved to Ireland in 2011, where entering the journalism world required a huge local connection that I just didn't have. So I was stuck there for a while, and I was like really crying over the lost passion and the lost career and what I'm doing here in Ireland now. I'm so glad I actually did make the decision to come here, and I'm a proud Irish citizen as well now. But definitely it was quite a moment of frustration for me. And I'm sure many of you would be going through that when you really think you are ready and you want to move to that job or continue in that industry, but you are stuck for whatever reason. But fast forward now, as I look, since I moved to Ireland, I definitely realized as I looked around me and tried to do my own due diligence and see what opportunities are available there for me, I realized that I can use my passion as my compass and not a destination, exactly like what I was telling you guys. In another word, I took a step back. I mapped my new market opportunities and I reset another destination with my passion at the heart of it. So I decided to enter the tech world. Yes, well, Ireland is a global tech hub after all, and my asset was being a bilingual leader. So I speak both English and Arabic too. It still wasn't enough though, and you needed to show more to be able to enter that world. So I entered first as a leader, where every day, I entered first, as a leader in unpaid startup, and only after that startup stepping stone and voluntary job, really, I was able to find my way through the tech companies that I wanted to work for. And so, again, I just had to take a step back and think about, well, in that role, I'm going to be able to help people on my team and customers that I'm working with right? And make such an impact on their lives and their career trajectory as well. And so I'm happy. It has been a fantastic journey, and I'm so glad I've done that and didn't really push too hard for journalism when I could fulfill my passion in different ways that are more relevant to the market and more relevant to really the entire environment. So I hope I got you a bit excited, right? Let's get to, let's talk about what does it each of you need to do now, really, and what do you need to equip yourselves with to embark on your own career change journeys. So as you can see here on my slide, you first really need to start thinking about crafting your personal elevator pitch. And I know Stephanie touched on that very nicely. Think about, what do I want to be known for? My brand. What do I want to get to? My goal. And what unique value will I bring to the table? My asset, my unique assets, right? And finish with a CTA, especially when speaking to someone or when trying to build the connection very quickly. You met someone in a lift and you really want to make an impression in quick, a couple of seconds, and so on and so forth. So it really is not easy. It's a big deal. I know it's easy to say it on a slide, but I'm asking you all to think about how can you write the most powerful 30-second version of your whole life story, right? And I would also remind you, just go big. You have loads of accomplishment under your belt in the different capacities you carried out, both professionally and personally. I've always referred to relocation to Ireland, for instance, as an asset, and navigating that relocation and finding a different job. That all has been actually a couple of things that I refer to in my own job interviews when I was struggling to find my first job here in Ireland, right? Also remember, for that little amazing story that you are going to prep and work on, to practice and do many rehearsals. Ask yourself, if I bump into a hiring manager in a coffee shop tomorrow, of course, when coffee shops are open, am I ready to tell my 30-second story powerfully and passionately or not? You really need to nail it. You really need to know what you're talking about. You really need to have true passion about that, and you will deliver it. And definitely you will open up the connection with that hiring manager and hopefully stand a chance to be on their team as well at some stage. So as you refine your pitch, here are a couple of reminders and tips for you. A cognitive intelligence study done by MIT researchers recently compared performance of diverse and homogeneous teams. And it found actually out that diverse teams outperform homogeneous teams by 35% and achieve way higher innovation revenues. Now, why is this relevant? Diversity is not simply about building teams with diverse gender, ethnicity, or age profiles. It's fundamentally about how all these factors represent our individual embodied experience, which constitute a wealth of skill, knowledge, and potential when leveraged effectively. And so as you enter a new industry or field, your diverse professional expertise is a huge asset. Capitalize on that. Talk about the fresh perspective and unique set of expertise you will bring to the business, really with proud. Talk to your diverse and unconventional professional background and tie them nicely to what the competencies and attributes that are required for the job at hand. Of course, you don't want to talk about yourself and forget about the job that you are applying for. Tell a story about how all these different skills that maybe are not very similar to what people in the role that you want to get now do, but will help you and have set you up for success when you move to that new job or new industry or new role. So, quick question to you here, guys. Now, it's your time to tell me, what do you think? My question to all of you is, and you can use the chat window for answers. I'm sure Camille will kindly tell us like how the answers are going to look like. Have a think about that. What are the top 3 skills that you think will be the most valuable in the workforce by year 2025? We getting some answers?
You just post the questions in the chat. I'll let some answers come rolling through.
Nice. Thank you all for giving that a think.
So we've seen a really good range of responses, some soft skills, innovation, and some hard skills around tech skills, coding, seeing empathy and critical thinking, some language skills as well. Definitely a lot of responses around flexibility and empathy and emotional intelligence, which is really interesting.
That's very cool. I'm gonna take it back and thank you all who responded. So, well, the answer actually, guys, is very close to what you thought. So, analytical thinking, actively learning, right? Adapting, changing career, but learning fast and learning actively, and complex problem solving, as you can see there from the World Economic Forum. Top 10 skills for 2025 graph are going to be the most, or the top really, 3 skills needed in 2025. So it's not really anymore about being the technical expert. It's about being a learner, being the open-minded person who is ready and willing to learn and to adapt and to apply those learnings and think differently, but bring together with them skills and expertise from before and apply them in an efficient and innovative fashion. So actually, during the pandemic, new shining stars emerged on my team. Those who did really well are the most adaptable, resilient, and the true team players. Maybe those people who did really well weren't the top performers in 2019 and are not on the key metrics of my team job, are not really the top performers. But guess what? They have got what it takes to thrive during adversity and help their customers and their colleagues thrive as well. And to be honest, as a hiring manager, those would be the values that I'm really keen on finding in people I hire. So ask yourself this important question as well. What top skills will you be transferring over with you, right? And it doesn't have to be technical anymore. 2025 numbers are telling us our skills are telling us that, right? And always remember, you are more skilled than you think you are. Think about all the different set downs that you had in your life, right? And talk about the way you overcame all of them. Because this is what really matters to a hiring manager. We want to know with you, with your first customer escalation, with your first quarter of not hitting your target, whatever the industry, doesn't have to be tech really, but in general, how would you react to that? Are you going to be able to stand on your feet again, reflect, learn, and move forward fast? Or would you just stop where you are and get stuck? So I'm getting a bit conscious of time here, guys. So I'm going to move fast. Another nice tip for you, and I'm assuming here that majority of you, if not all, have great LinkedIn profiles that are updated, that are clear. But as a hiring manager, I always look at skills listed on the candidates that apply for jobs in my team on their LinkedIn profile, because LinkedIn as well is telling us from LinkedIn data that having at least 5 skills or attributes on your profile gets you up to 17 times more profile views and 31 times more messages from recruiters and others who can help you get ahead. So definitely, if you don't have the skills on your LinkedIn profile already, make sure that you take the time to update them and showcase the skills that you want hiring manager for role that you are applying for to see and know about you. Now, I also want you guys to use LinkedIn and the different tools and social media profiles that you have to definitely connect and network, like Stephanie mentioned. But my only ask of you and my only recommendation here for you all is please reach out with a clear purpose and call to action. As a hiring manager, I receive almost 20 emails every week from people interested in job on my team. To stand out from that crowd, try to avoid the vague intro emails that I really don't know how to respond to them. Hey, I'm interested, I'm keen on a job on your team. How would that look like? I want to hear from someone who's telling me very briefly and effectively a short story of what they have done, what they want to achieve, and why my company, why my team, and what they're going to bring along with them to the team. What is the unique asset and unique value proposition that they really will bring to the team and the company. So definitely when reaching out, reach out with purpose, be clear, and have a call to action. Say, I want to have a casual chat with you. I want to have an informational interview with you for 15 minutes. When would be the right time, right? And then if you are lucky and secured your formal interview, definitely prepare, practice your story, practice your examples, and deliver with passion. And also think about what questions you will prepare for the interviewers when you are giving the time to ask questions, right? Think about showcasing passion for the industry and for the company through your questions, even showcasing that you are keen on working for that manager because according to their profiles on social media, they seem to be quite unique leaders or inspirational leaders. So think about all of that and go prepared and go the extra mile. I'm going to take quick 2 minutes as well, because I have a word for our lovely returners. And I know we're getting tight on time. So many companies are now running what is called returner programs. Usually it's about a 20-week returnship for people who have been away on a career break, where the employer provides so much training, support, and growth opportunities to help them upskill and upskill their skills and transition back to work in a meaningful way. Now in Ireland, those opportunities are available in many companies, some of which could be LinkedIn, Amazon, Accenture, and even Hubspot. We all have similar programs. So again, your wealth of experience is super unique and will add significantly to any team. Whether you choose to apply through a designated returner program or not, definitely position that in the right way and make sure that you don't undermine what you will bring different from what the teams have, right? Because I've had the privilege of having new returners on my team and seeing them operate and on board on the role and so on and so forth, I wanted to also share quick do's and don'ts. So when you have joined a company after your break, make sure that you find yourself a mentor and a coach. They are needed, they will help you. Share your wealth of professional expertise and learnings and relate that to problems at hand, right? Don't be shy and don't think, oh, what I have is really irrelevant, right? Practically identify and pitch opportunities for the business to grow. Be proactive in like using your skills to tell your manager and leaders how and what else can be done for the business to grow. Create your own visibility opportunities. Now that we are all remote, you've got to reach out to leaders on your team and try to talk to them and try to tell them what you are seeing working, what's not working, and what business opportunities are available there, right? So yeah, again, on the do's, as you can see, they are really reflection of the top skills that in 2025 are going to be very needed. Complex problem solving, right? Analytical thinking and innovation, and leadership and influence. So definitely keep that in mind. On the don't side of things, I've seen people always referring themselves as a returner, even if they have been in the role for 5-6 months. You always say, oh, I'm the returner. You don't need to do that. You are an like integral part of the team, and you don't need to see yourself as a returner anymore at this stage, right? And don't stay within your comfort zone. That wouldn't be helpful. Can't even read that. Don't be afraid to ask for help anytime. Avoid a mid-cycle presentation check-in. Oh, sorry. Maybe I wrote that by mistake, guys. Ignore it. Don't work long hours and weekends to catch up due to your slower base, and just do the job the way it should be done. Actually, on the mid-cycle, don't avoid it. If your manager is telling you, I have some feedback with you to share, don't wait until there is a performance review cycle and then you feel the pressure of, oh my God, is she gonna put me on plan or whatever? Definitely ask for feedback always. Now, to bring us home, before we close, remember not to give up. It's not going to be an easy journey. The road will be bumpy, lots of ups and downs. You will do fantastic interviews and then not get the job. Don't get frustrated. Keep trying and keep learning from the interviews as well that you are going to have. And just to recap, we spoke about why career change and how to best position that change to your hiring manager. Build your brand and network with intention and with purpose. Be ready to be flexible learner, and soon you will impress and never give up. And thank you so much all for your patience, and I'm sorry I went a little bit over time.
Great. Oh, thanks so much, Radwa and Stephanie. Such an interesting presentation from both of you. I'm sure people have been picking up lots of tips. So there is some questions coming in. Radwa, I might give you a little break because you've just been talking now non-stop for 20 minutes. So Stephanie, a few for you, and then I'll come back to Radwa. Someone was just interested, actually, just curious, what area were you teaching in?
English. I did English
very good.
in college, and then I taught English. I did my dip in English, essentially.
Very good, very good. The vision board, I think, has caught some people's imagination.
Yeah.
So a few people are just asking, so do you have any particular like websites that you'd recommend, or any book or resources, or would you say kind of just go off and kind of have a quick Google search for
Well, I have essentially the type of skills I picked up as regards vision boards have mainly been from workshops that I've gone to, and it's really simple. So you can, of course, I mean, there are websites. If you Google vision boards, there's lots of websites out there. If you go to Amazon.co or any bookshop you go into, you will find books on vision boards. I can't, in all honesty, stand behind any one of them, to be honest, because to me it's really simple, and it's around three, if I can just take the time to say three basic steps. One is to create the time and mood. So put a bit of music on, sit in your easy chair, just let your brain relax. The next one would be start, and when pictures are of your future start to come up, capture those and try and pick some photos off the net, or try and print them out and put them on a big huge sheet, or else you can do it electronically as well. Canva is very good for this, actually, doing a vision board electronically, or else preferably literally on the wall. That's step 2. So as the images come up and as the words come up, just throw them all up there, and keep it visible around the house so that you see it every day, you add to it, and it becomes kind of part of your subconscious, really. So you're seeing, this is what I want to be doing in 10 years time, and you're adding to it all the time. So yes, you can read a book on it, you can read websites on it, but to me, it's just give it the time yourself, sit with it.
Sure. Yeah.
It'll pay back in spades, I think.
Very good. Okay, that's really great. So we had a question, Stephanie, from another Stephanie, who is kind of a scenario that possibly comes up for quite a few people when they're thinking of changing careers. So worked just as a physio, I'll just give you the kind of rough details, was working kind of part-time in weekends, evenings, decided that due to COVID, her circumstances changed. She changed and decided that she was going to go full-time, okay, in as a physio.
As a physio.
Yeah. So applied for lots of positions in kind of public service and various clinical roles, but then actually ended up back kind of taking a similar role to the one she'd left, and kind of feels that she maybe sabotaged this opportunity to make a change. And she said, her last sentence, I think I lacked the final push to take a leap to do something different. So do you come across kind of fear where people don't kind of make that final jump, and what kind of tips would you have for that?
Well, I would say it's hard to comment on individual cases, of course, without knowing all the details. But as regards the fear and lacking to making that final push, what I would say is, to her and to anyone, the process, you've started the process, and be easy on yourself. These are tough times, in COVID. And it is very hard to really get that essential energy together. But once the wish is there, it'll come back again. And I would just advise her to keep going at it, and maybe take some of the tips both myself and Radwa have given her, and to keep going for it.
Yeah, don't be too hard on yourself.
Yeah, don't be too hard on yourself. I mean, to even begin to attempt such a radical change in this, I take my hat off to her, because things are, if we can just keep it a level at this stage, and keep our heads above water, we're doing well. So to actually try a really radical change of stuff, I do find that a lot of people are beginning during COVID, certainly are looking at their careers. There's absolutely no doubt about that. And if they're not going to change careers, they're also they may be thinking of working differently, obviously, but now they do feel, well, maybe now is the time. They've had a lot of thinking time at home, and they say, well, maybe I should make a substantial career change, and that's good. Yeah.
Very good. Radwa, some questions coming in for you just around the competencies and skills. So there's someone is asking kind of, what do you mean exactly by technical skills? And then they're asking just around the type of competencies to highlight in LinkedIn, like technical competencies or soft skills, or perhaps both.
Yeah, sure. Before I jump onto that one, Stephanie, definitely it's a hard time, like Stephanie said. And also I feel like I can't judge much about the individual case similar to Stephanie, but I feel like maybe a connection, a warm introduction to someone in the field could be of great value for you, because I've seen many people who get stuck, and then once they invest in building their relationship, things really change. The question on the technical skills. So first of all, what I mean by technical skills would definitely be the let's say if you are applying for a job at Google, right? And if you want to be a software engineer, but originally that wasn't your core field of study, right? Or core topic of study. And you want to showcase that you are now a reliable, you are a trained and ready to rock and roll software engineer. So you want to talk to that in your skills, because your education alone and maybe your past experiences wouldn't support that you have that skill. So it is really what I mean by it, product specific knowledge or role specific knowledge that are required for you to be able to do a job. So that would be the technical competency or skills that I refer to. And then, or for example, if you want to be a lawyer and you haven't studied law originally and you want to showcase that you are now accredited lawyer and so on and so forth. And then other competencies that you could think about and are definitely common across majority of roles, that communication skills, that you're able to communicate effectively, whether you're going to be a software engineer behind your screen for the majority of the time, or you're going to be a TV presenter, you definitely need communication under your belt. And it could also be stakeholder management, right? You're going to be able to build relationships when you join that company and get the job, and help build the right partnerships to grow the business and to help your customers, right? So these would be examples of them. Again, look at the top 20, the top 10, 2025 skills, and think about what do you have that you can showcase as well on LinkedIn, and the most relevant to the field or the job that you're trying to get, and work at the reverse engineer it so that you get it right.
Okay, perfect. Just Stephanie, would you know of any websites where people can do kind of personality profile testing, like the MBTI and things like that? I know you mentioned careers.
Well, the MBTI actually can only be done by trained professionals, actually. Okay. But there are some like Careers Portal does have personality tests that you can do. But the bigger tests, like the 16FQ and the 15FQ and the MBTI, can only be done by people who are at level A and B, it's called in the British Psychological Society. So yeah,
Okay, perfect. This is for both.
There are some very quick ones you can get on the Young Type indicator. If you go on the web, you get some quick ones, Young Type indicator, and it kind of mirrors some of the MBTI. Yeah.
Okay. So that'll be a good place to start.
Yeah.
Very good. So for both of you, any kind of feedback or suggestions for dealing with imposter syndrome? Does this come up for you guys when people are talking about career changing? So this person in particular is looking to apply to kind of tech roles, has done a conversion course, but still feel like to gain the skills to work in this sector, but still feels that they're maybe a little bit lacking. So either of you can jump into that one, whichever one.
Stephanie, if you want to start. No, go for it.
Sure. Imposter syndrome. You know, as I said from the very start, it is all about mindset and psychology. So, yeah, I mean, if they've done the courses and the people are crying out for a lot of the people to work in the technical areas, if she can start doing take some of the tips that both myself and Radwa have given in terms of changing your mindset, etc. That's all I can say, and it is around doing work on your CV and on your cover letter and presentation, and working on your interview skills, and again networking. So it's all a jigsaw, really, isn't it? And hopefully it'll come together. And there's no reason for her to feel like an imposter if she's done all the courses. That's for sure.
100%. I'd echo that, Stephanie, and I just say, look, focus on what you can control. You do your work, prep, complete the courses that are needed. And trust me, no one will hire you if you are not the right person for the role. No one will take a chance on you much at this stage. So if you have got the job, hang in there. Just focus on what you can control and give it your best, and you're going to be fine. And you will actually notice that majority of people around you might also be struggling with imposter syndrome. We are all finding it hard when pushed out of comfort zone, and this is normal, and this is really where all the innovation and success happens. So hang in there and you'll be fine as long as you have done your work.
Yeah, sometimes you have to fake it till you make it, don't you? So Petra wants to say thanks to both of you for very impactful presentations. Talk about no limits. It's really inspiring stuff. She poses an interesting question. So what would you define the difference between a job and a career? And she's pitched that at both of you, but
I don't know, Radwa, do you want to take that?
I think you can give it a start, and I'll continue from there.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose I think a job is something you do. I think a career, if you're mapping out a career, you're more invested in it. That's what I feel about careers generally. You're more invested in it. A job is something you do during your career, absolutely. But the career end of things is something that kind of where your passion lies, hopefully, ideally, in an ideal world. It's something where you're very invested and where your values are really important, an important part of the role you have, So yeah, that's I don't know what you think, Radwa.
Yeah, I definitely agree. More of the end goal of what you want to get out of your current job. You could want to be a TV presenter, and now you're only an editor or producer, whatever it is. But ultimately, you are in the field and career of TV presenting, and hopefully one day you will get there. But yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I know I'm conscious of time. We've only one more minute, and the questions, there's still a few flying in here. I'll just look at one or two more. Someone's just asking, I suppose, maybe around the CV. The kind of one-page CV is a lot of recruiters look for that, and it's kind of a modern-looking take on your experience. But what do you do if you have kind of 10 years experience and kind of you want to showcase a lot of stuff that you have? It's I guess it's kind of just trying to be as succinct as possible against the job description, isn't it?
I can take that. Yeah, exactly like you said, Michelle. Also be careful, because some companies are not big fan of hiring an overqualified person. So double down only on the roles and the experiences that you think are relevant to the role, and understand and do your due diligence again about the company and how open they are about diversity and inclusion as part of their policy. If they are open to that and encourage diversity of experience and diversity of age on their teams, then definitely by all means, maybe speak to all of them. But if they're not, and if you really want it, you might want to adjust your experiences so that they are most relevant and within the requirements, right, for the role.
Brilliant. Very good. Well, we're at 7 o'clock, so I'll just check in with Camille. There's one more question that I can ask if I'll just check in with Camille. One more minute.
Yeah, sure. You want to wrap up one more question? Great.
So I suppose people are often looking to hear from experts like you guys around kind of where you get your inspiration. So like what kind of podcasts, TED Talks, books are you interested in or inspire you? So I know, Stephanie, you mentioned the Emil Watnick. That sounds very interesting, but is there anything else that springs to mind? And Radwa, for you as well, kind of what inspires you?
Will I take that first, Radwa?
Yeah.
So yeah, that when I mentioned that, it was a TED Talk. So if you go into TED Talk, you go into career change, anything to do with career, you get a rake of people that are really inspiring, very visionary. I personally like TED Talk quite a lot, actually, I have to say. But having said that, there's a lot of books around. There's a lot of books that go through, 20 career changers, etc. And it's all out there. There's no shortage. And I find them very inspiring. I'm always fascinated by them, I must say. It's great.
Brilliant. And Radwa, to you?
Yeah, I have a vision board. So Stephanie, definitely the vision board has been a source of inspiration for many, many years. And it was given to me as an advice when I was struggling to get out of journalism and enter the real life here in Ireland, where journalism wasn't an option. So I get my inspiration from really remind myself why I'm doing what I'm doing every day, and the fact that I'm able to, get closer and to perform and satisfy my passion. But yeah, a book that I really love and I read maybe every year, once or twice, Dare to Lead, because I'm so much into leadership, and that book has definitely inspired me many times. So
brilliant. Oh, it's a very inspiring book. So it's nice to get tips like that. So Camille, I'll just hand back to you. And And sorry, just one person has asked a question just about, is it okay to have 2 pages on their CVs in Ireland? And yeah, that is, so just to clarify that. So Camille, back to you.
Great. Thanks so much, Michelle, for the great steer on all those questions. And thanks again to Stephanie and Radwa. Those are some amazing presentations, really full of practical advice that we can get started with today, I think. So I also just want to say thanks to all of you who tuned in tonight, and thanks for all of your amazing questions you submitted to us. If your question didn't get answered, because I know we had tons coming through, you can connect with Stephanie and Radwa on LinkedIn. And it's great even just to be able to make those connections and start networking like they were advising. So you can find those links to their profiles in the chat here. And you can also find slides from today's presentations, as well as a bunch of other resources in the What It Takes resource hub, which is on the UCD Alumni Network. We also saw a couple questions about whether this is being recorded. It is. So if you want to revisit anything that we talked about tonight, it'll be up on our YouTube channel tomorrow on UCD Alumni Relations. So I just have a few final notes before we wrap up tonight. First is that you might be interested in our next What It Takes webinar. Hopefully tonight's was enough of an inspiration to keep going with the series. So our next episode is called What It Takes to Negotiate Effectively, and it's happening on Wednesday, the 3rd of February. This is part of our Women in Leadership 2021 conference program, and you can sign up for it and check out the rest of the series at the link in the chat box here. Finally, this series aims to support our UCD community with career development opportunities, but I'd also like to mention our commitment to supporting our students through the COVID crisis. Generous funds have been raised thanks to alumni and friends of UCD like you. And if you'd like to support our efforts to provide financial and mental health support to these students who need it most, you can visit the link in the chat here as well. So with that in mind, that's all from us. Thank you so much again for joining us this evening, and I hope we'll get to see you again next time. Take care.